Hi, everyone. Welcome to another insightful episode of the HRC Podcast. I'm your host, Mahira, accompanied by my one and only friend, Harish Chaudhary.
Thank you, Myra.
Today, we'll be dealing with a topic which is, I think, everyone has to deal with. It's stress and burnout, stress management and burnout, to be precise. And stress and is very important because children, kids, students, housewives, entrepreneurs, corporates, CEOs, you name it, and
Everybody's
everyone's
dealing with it.
dealing with
Yeah.
it. So we would like to just jump into the topic and straight away start. Tell me, Harish, what do you think is stress?
Yes. So, like every other episode, disclaimer to the audience is, we are sharing life experiences. We should all take professional advice and help
Yes.
wherever necessary. Stress is the human body's reaction to challenge. Okay, and as in my reading of how much ever I have studied this topic, it comes from our hunter gatherer
Gatherer
days.
instinct.
Okay, so it is very important for us to succeed. It is very important for us to complete a particular task, and therefore, in certain space, stress is helpful. The way we understand stress is the negative connotation of stress, saying, "Oh my God, I'm stressful. You know what? I had a really bad day," and then we say we had a bad day because I was stressed out, and therefore I was stressed out, right? Something bad happened, therefore I'm stressed out. But a lot of the times I have told myself that I need to create stress so I'm able to perform.
Okay.
There's a whole science behind it, and but I really want people who are listening to the podcast today to look at stress not all the time as a negative.
Okay.
It's actually a very important thing for us to be successful.
Okay, that makes sense. So, how would you say stress is different and burnout is different? Like, is it the same thing, stress and burnout, or is it correlated
They're definitely correlated because stress when
in extreme?
when endured for a very long time will
Hmm.
lead to burnout.
Burnout.
So that is the point. The best example is think about a marathon runner. Now, when you're running a marathon, you're under stress. And marathon is what? Some people will finish a marathon obviously in 3 hours, and someone like me may take five and a half hours to complete the marathon. So now you're stressed. You are going through pain, you are pushing your physical boundaries. But burnout is when you collapse.
Right. It's
And
overdone.
we've seen right in marathons, people just fall. So that it's a huge difference. You're not supposed to say stress and burnout in the same breath because burnout is
Extreme.
and yeah, it's end of the road.
So, can we start with different personas? For example, students, if they are stressed, okay, how do you recognize it firstly? And how, because they're trying to handle their own life, their studies, probably interpersonal relationships, relationship with their parents, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
And how do they manage that stress in today's world?
Like I said, if you are challenged in a day-to-day task, you will feel stress. So that is normal. Everybody will get that sensation. It's a little bit of a tingling sensation, butterflies in your stomach. 10 days before exams, you're feeling
The
it.
heartbeats also go a
It's
little.
good. So when little bit of stress comes, it's okay. Because that's really, like I said, it's our human instinct, to feel it. So let's talk about stress, which now starts entering in a little bit of a negative zone where productivity is going to get impacted. So what happens with students is one major objective of every student's life is to remember. So one of the very good ways to recognize stress is when you start becoming very forgetful. Yeah, so you're trying to spend so much of time trying to learn, and you're trying to memorize, and what you start noticing in yourself is that you've been very forgetful.
Okay.
The second aspect in a student's life will be disinterest. Now think about a student, right? As a fundamental objective of a student's life is to study. Now, if you lose interest in study, that goes to tell something. There's something that's not working out. The second aspect is daydreaming.
Zoning out, like,
Yeah, just zone out, right? And that happens. That's also something which is coming from stress. So while we are obviously taking examples of students, the idea here is also for the parents and teachers who are listening to the
That's what I
podcast
would
to say,
come back. Yeah.
like help kids who
Yes.
are showing these signs,
Yes.
because there is in the back end some stress that is, you need to understand, the stress doesn't have to come from task in hand.
Right.
Stress can come from an absolutely different origin.
Okay.
You see, so when we use the example of a marathon runner, the marathon runner is seasoning himself, right? Because somebody just doesn't get up in the morning and says, I'm going to run a 42-kilometer marathon. Please don't do that.
Yes.
Yeah. So the person has been seasoning himself 6 months, 1 year. Some people will take 18 months to prep for a marathon. So if you collapsed, the collapse did not happen because of the stress of the body, the stress of the training. It could be completely a different reasoning altogether. Could be because you're so stressed out, you're not sleeping anymore. And you did not address it because you're saying, I'm following my training program. I'm following my regime. So, theek hai na, I did not, sleep for a couple of hours. And, by the way, one of the regime in a marathon running is sleeping. So anyway, that this example could be a bad example, but I'm just giving you that stress doesn't normally come from task in hand. It may emerge from other sources, and therefore we need to dig deep.
Okay, for children, that would be the case. What about housewives? How would you say the housewives of everywhere in the world, how should they deal with their stress? Because sometimes, it's stress from children. It might be stress of running the household, stress of the husband, stress of finance, which is the biggest stress, I think, for everybody, I guess, and stress of in-laws, or stress of anything in general. Okay, maybe their own family stress.
Number one example I can give for homemakers to start recognizing there is stress in the system is when they start getting this thought in their mind that I've become invisible.
Okay.
Because they do so much of work, whether they are parents or you are a newlywed couple, and, depends upon who you are, or, aging couples, and, the homemaker has so many avatars. But you start feeling, or you start getting this sense of feeling that you become invisible. By the way, this is also one of the indicators of stress at work.
Okay. Unappreciated also, you could say.
Yeah, you'll start feeling unappreciated. And honestly, that thought comes in the mind not because people around you are unappreciated or people have stopped ignoring your work and effort. It comes because of stress. So that's definitely one of the examples. The other example is going to be sleep issues. So you're at home, and there are people who have this amazing healthy habit of, or they have this liberty at home taking afternoon naps, and now you all of a sudden can't take afternoon naps, or can't sleep in the night. And while a lot of people will think it's natural, and hey, it's this only happened 1 week or 4 days, 5 days, or it happens like a couple of days in a month. One of the other things you should observe when you start sleeping less is overthinking. Because what are you doing when you're not sleeping?
You're thinking.
Yeah, you're not getting up and you're not going for a jog. You're like, oh, fine, you know what, I'm not sleeping
And I
today.
think in today's world,
Yeah.
you're getting on to the stress because sometimes you're trying to sleep and all of a sudden you remember some weird point that you need to Google and check usi work, like from your, you get up and you
Yeah.
start checking it immediately in your phone. So you're stressing yourself out. Just sleep, just
Yeah.
let it go.
So there's this guy in my team, he's a marathon runner. And he's like, Harish, I had nothing to do in the evening. And he went for a 6-kilometer run. A 6-kilometer run for me is a marathon.
Yeah,
right
for
now.
100%.
That's really where I am
100%.
in my stage of running. So that's a very productive outburst. But a lot of people don't have that outburst. There is no productive outburst. How many people are really doing what iPad ads are showing?
100%. Yeah, right.
Taking a pencil out, drawing something, like how many people do that? So a lot of people do what you're saying, like I'm now overthinking and
Stressing out, getting yourself more
yeah,
stressed out than it should be.
you need to have productive outburst.
Right.
But people don't do that. So for housewives, for
Homemakers.
homemakers, for professionals, you'll start losing sleep, you will start overthinking.
Disinterest, I would say also, because then the job that you have been at, I think you start getting disinterested, and then because you're
So what happens, it's a great point, because while a student's disinterest is visible, they will stop doing homework. They're daydreaming in class. Teacher is asking a question and literally asking a question to you, and you are looking at the teacher and you're zoned down. With homemakers, with professionals, they have this art where they can ignore disinterest.
yes.
Because if you're at work, okay, most of the work everybody has is a process flow. You come to work, you have to do these 10 things. It's a task. Now, you could be disinterested, absolutely disinterested, but a lot of professionals have got this skill that they're disinterested but still doing the job. You would have an absolutely disinterested air purser, but they are so good at their work
Yeah.
that they are still smiling at you. still serving you coffee,
Yes. Getting
and
the job done.
you will not know that this person is
That's-
disinterested.
Yes.
So I feel disinterested has to be layered out.
Hmm.
You need to really peel the layers, and you and me can't do it. It's the
Yeah.
person who has to figure out saying, why am I feeling disinterested? Why am I not feeling motivated? So the way to recognize disinterest, unlike recognizing stress, is you will get up in the morning and you don't want to go to work.
Yes.
And this is not a feeling you're getting on a Friday, or you're not getting it on a Monday.
Right.
It's not happening because you had a late night and there's a hangover. It happens,
It's just that sinking feeling of not wanting to do
you
that.
had the best sleep, 9 hours, 12 hours of sleep, and you are still disinterested to go to work. And this feeling is coming 5 days, 10 days in a row, a month in a row, 6 months in a row. A lot of people are getting this and they're not addressing it.
Yeah. So this is the stress buildup, I would say, in over a period
Oh
of
my
time.
God,
also.
it's going to lead to burnout with at another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so also we can go into the other persona, that is CEOs, entrepreneurs, the ones who are handling all the work,
Yeah.
like work life, and they're getting stressed at work, maybe with their bosses, maybe with their juniors. So how do you think they should handle it?
Yeah, see, entrepreneurs is a very important persona. I think we're going to keep touching this particular persona. We talk about CEOs, most of the time as well. But I think entrepreneurs are also feeling stressed, and they are a genius of disguise because they've embarked on a journey where they started a business.
Yes. Especially the startups, I would say, because you're trying to do everything.
It's a promise you made to yourself, so you started something. Now it's a promise you also told to your family members, to your friends, and so they are the people who have just told themselves, I'm going to ignore every kind of stress. You have a headache, they're going to go, have 4 coffees a day, 7 coffees a day, 10 coffees a day, because they feel that recognizing stress is absolutely counterintuitive. An entrepreneur can't do that. So, for entrepreneurs, I would say one of the indicators is decision fatigue. Your ability to make decision is slowing down. When you started your startup, you were making 100 decisions a day. All of a sudden, making even one decision is becoming challenging. So, that happens. And we will discuss work-life blur. All of a sudden, you don't even know where your work is starting, where it should end, where your life is starting, where it should end, and now you are
Entwined in a way.
you are entwined in a super negative way. We'll
Yeah.
give we'll give examples, and the other piece I will talk about with entrepreneurs is lack of innovation and ideas. All of a sudden, you started the business because you're so good at it and you were passionate about it. That's the reason why, and you're good at it. Therefore, some people even invested in you. There are people who go and raise millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands to start their company because people know you were good at it. They recognized you, and all of a sudden you cannot think anything new in that work
You're blocked
anymore.
in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, innovation is not happening. So that's one piece, and absolutely one thing that is applicable not only to entrepreneurs, CEOs, to everybody is physical warnings. If you are stressed out, your body will start giving you those indicators. Whether you're not sleeping, dark circles, all of a sudden you feel tired. Though, like I said, you could have had a great night's sleep. You're not working out. You don't want to go to work out anymore.
Your
You're still
will to
feeling
do
tired. Yeah,
things,
you're
yeah.
getting headaches. You're getting a pain in your neck, and your body's stiffed
stiff.
out. And
Yeah.
yeah, and somebody told me back in the day, if you're really stressed out, just touch your calf. And you've not worked out, you've not gone for a run, you've not gone for a cycling, you've not gone for a walk, and your calves are like,
stiff.
yeah. But I don't know, as in, I'm not a doctor here, but
Yeah.
I use that indication sometimes. Like, oh my God, this is happening. Let's go for a walk, or just stretch. Just do some basic things. But we'll talk about tools later. But that's another indication of stress, at least for that persona.
What are the practical impacts of stress and burnout on each persona? What do you think like this? How does it impact a student, and can that lead to a burnout for a child?
Yeah, and you know what? I think I've seen the worst examples, right? Like you'll see the best of the best kids. If stress goes prolonged, because now they have a point to prove. I was I'm ranked number 1 in 4th grade. Now I want to do it on the 5th grade. So my schedule has to keep becoming. I have to study more, and as I'm rising up in the rank, I have to maintain my rank number 1. while in the larger scheme of event it has no context, because when you go to a college, are they really looking at that? When you go for a job interview, what are they really looking at that? Or they're looking at how with AI the world is changing on academia, so we'll talk about that in a separate episode. What it leads to is burnout, where all of a sudden the student was very good at what they were doing, but was also a very good guitarist, for example, was very good at playing cricket, and all of a sudden they stopped that. So zero physical activity, zero creative work, has given up painting. The other thing you will see negative implications is social distancing. They're so focused on trying to create that one single outcome of being the best at what they are doing, that there is social distancing. So friends, no, they're not contributing to WhatsApp groups anymore, not attending,
I don't think they
brunches and
attend
stuff like
family
that.
gatherings also. They don't want to sit
Yeah,
with
yes, and they'll
family.
come in, they'll say hi. And
And
you know
they
what?
move away.
Like I said, people who are in stress disguise stress. They're really good at it, huh? So especially the guys who are at the breaking point, who are at burnout stages, will not show stress out. So they'll come, they'll say hi, hello, and they'll participate in a conversation. 15 minutes, they are gone, and a lot of people don't even realize they're not there.
That is true. But how does this apply to professionals? How does the impact of stress, and if it leads to burnout, how do they handle it, or how can it be addressed?
Listen, for professionals, for entrepreneurs, if stress is prolonged and they start entering burnouts, it will show up physically immediately, because obviously the age factor comes in between them and the student persona. Not feeling motivated, feeling dejected, feeling I'm invisible are also indications as you start getting close to burnout. I have seen people walk out of office, when they reach burnout, resigning, because they did not address the stress. If they had addressed the stress, they would have performed well, they would have continued in the job, they wouldn't have looked as if they are the victims. Everybody's against me, nobody's recognizing me, I'm resigning. So for all you could have done so well in this company for 10 years. You could have become like a managing director. You could have really become an impactful agent in that company, because you took stress, took it to a burning point. Impact could be super negative.
But
And
wouldn't you say that sometimes there are outside factors that are adding to that? Sometimes maybe that person's performing well, they are trying to do their thing, whatever. Like you spoke about the students, this is where I think this is correlated in a way. The student might be studying, might be doing their thing, they might be limited in their studies. For example, he or she is not a 80 on 100 student, they are a 50 on whatever student. But the external factors, the same which would apply in these professionals, such as your parents, or in this case your bosses or your colleagues or whatever, and who are putting pressure on you. Now you're doing your job, you're doing it well. I think you're doing, for your category of performance, you're doing well. But because of that pressure, maybe that burnout is happening, because
Yeah.
now you're trying to overdo it. Don't you
See,
think so?
my view is, any topic that we are talking about, in our on all our episodes, what we need to do is the external factor needs to be discounted. So if a student is going through pressure from parents, pressure from peers, and somebody's bullying them, teachers, you have a bad teacher, bad behavior, I would say that has to be addressed immediately. If you're dealing with a bad boss, address it immediately. You can't take that into context and say, I have to live with this
For 10 years and then
and
not
I have
take
to
it. Yeah,
perform.
yeah, that's true.
I would say you need to address it immediately. Like
Yes.
go, there's a method of doing that, right?
Right.
Bullying, please go escalate. Like, bullying, go tell your parents, all the students, please go tell your parents, trust your
Immediately.
parents.
In fact, if this is such a
Yeah.
touchy topic, that even if you feel that the person who's enduring this is not being able to address it or tell somebody, if you see it firsthand or second, and you please go and report it.
Yeah, like, report, escalate. Like, we used to keep saying this like in my corporate job, I should keep telling people, escalate. Because that's it. There is no layering here. You just have to escalate stuff, saying somebody's at work bullying me, somebody is harassing me.
Right.
Go to your bosses, go to your HR person, and the same thing. So I would say, let's take that factor out for a second, right? Because what the topic today is, how do you identify there is stress? Stress is good, by the way. So like I said, at the beginning, and I'll keep saying this throughout the episode, little stress is required in life for you to perform. Otherwise, you're not going to perform only. But how do you recognize stress? Those are signs that I just spoke about. Let's understand that too much of stress is going to lead to burnout and it's going to have negative implications in life. And then we'll talk about tools of how to work towards it. So I would say for professionals, if you get burned out, then you could have a very good career, which was going to be rewarding both from a promotion perspective. You had a happy career. You could have made a lot of money in that career. And because you did not address the stress, led to burnout, led to you exiting that company, and then a lot of
Impacted
bad
your
things.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, as in for professionals that happens. For entrepreneurs, if they had not, if they had addressed the stress, they could have made $1 million company. Listen, everybody doesn't have to make $1 billion company.
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
So you could not do it because you did not handle the stress. When you should have, there was a process you should have followed. You knew you were reaching burnout. You did not call for help because now you think I am the driver of the car. So I'm not going to ask anybody for help. I'm not going to tell every people that, hey, I'm getting stressed out. I'm getting tired. I'm going to take a 15-minute break. How many people do that? Like, just think about it. The next time when you guys are going for a road trip, please tell the driver it's okay to take a break.
Yes, yes,
There's
100%.
no embarrassment in
Yeah.
saying, guys, it's been 3 hours I'm driving, so I can't take a break. Honestly, like even to a driver, like literally, if you hired a driver, please tell them to take a break. Tell your captain, listen, it's okay, boss. I'm going to take a coffee. You come join me. So in entrepreneurs' life, we need to tell entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs need to tell them that I should not burn out, because if I burn out, this company that could have been very fulfilling for me and my family and for everybody who's involved, the investors, the people who are working for you, just because you did not take care of your burnout, had a negative implication. So I feel the negative implications are insane. And worst case scenario, there are people who take extreme measures. We'll not discuss that today, but yeah, God forbid that nobody does.
So now we start my favorite segment, the area we do Flash 5. I'm going to ask you a few questions and the answers should be flashier-ish. You cannot be overthinking them, okay?
Yeah. The episode before this, I did a flash 5, then you did a flash 5 on me
Huh.
last time. So we'll do flash 5 like with both of us today. Huh?
Oh, okay, all right. That sounds good. Okay, so can we start now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's the one thing that instantly reduces your stress?
Taking God's name.
What's the worst burnout story you've seen?
I think for me, I've had instances of burnout.
Okay.
I was preparing for a cycling trip between Manali and Ladakh, which is technically the highest and motorable road in the world, and obviously the roads are not in the best condition. And the burnout for me was, did not take care of my health, started getting injuries, and right before the trip, so
Okay.
did not follow the science that my
Body was
my
giving you.
trainers were asking me to follow, because I just took it too seriously, took stress, took it to burnout.
If you could ban one stressful thing from life, what would it be?
I would say one thing you should ban, and I think this is applicable to me. I try to do it, but I'm not a good example for it. But I do try to do it every day, is trying to be the best at what I'm doing.
What's the one thing people should stop doing to avoid burnout?
I think a lot of people think, for example, I love coffee. So we think that going and reaching out for that mug of coffee takes the stress out. But the more you do it, the more the body will ask for it. Like, think about a lot of people who do cola and sugar drinks, and a lot of sports people have these energy drinks, and in the beginning it gives you that it gives you that little bit of pump, and then it starts creating the problem. So what we need to understand is that certain things that we think is a solution actually adds to the problem. Okay, I'm going to turn the table back at you.
Okay.
So what's one thing that instantly reduces your stress, Myra?
Instantly, again, praying, I would say one, and my son.
What's the worst burnout story you've seen?
Okay, it's very recently one of my sister-in-laws having a newborn and then already having a little 5-6 year old child. So doing it all, major burnout.
If you could ban one stressful thing from life, what would it be?
Ban all the narcissists, very honestly.
From your life?
From my life and everyone's lives.
How do you recognize a narcissist around you?
For me, I am very good at instincts, I would say, for myself. So when I get an advice from somebody or somebody's trying to correct me or trying to teach me something, I know where it's coming from, whether it is a genuine thing or whether it's a little negative to it, So that's very personal. I think person has to recognize that and catch it on that this person means well for you, or they're just being, they're just trying to put you down in a way.
I think is a genius of a response.
Yeah.
The more, like, now that I'm processing this
Hmm.
answer,
Hmm.
I just feel
Because can I just elaborate on that and tell you something?
Hmm.
Like, I know it's a flash five, but I want to just give a real life example. If you now go into history of everything in life, a husband wife have a problem because narcissist in-laws. Children have problem with other children who are narcissists and trying to be bullies. So basically, you're not realizing it, but comes back to those kind of people who are narcissists only in their different areas, and they don't even probably realize it that they are narcissists. They just think they're helping you, or they just think that I'm just adding value to you, but you're not adding value. You're just ruining the person's life in a way. So that's what I
in
think.
that example of a family member being narcissist, then you can't ban them.
You can't ban them, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're living with that. So you get it? That is the stress. That narcissist person living with you, it could, I'm not saying only in-laws, it could be between spouses, it could be your children to you, it could be any relationship. I'm not even specifying any relationship over here. Any such person in your life who is there and who's going to be there for the longest time, and that
Ban them.
ban
That's
them.
that's Myra's tip of the day.
Ban them.
Ban narcissist
Block
people
them.
from your life. What's your guilty pleasure for relaxation?
Guilty pleasure, Netflix and chill.
Call of Duty, that's for me.
Yeah.
What's one thing people should stop doing to avoid burnout?
Stop doing. See, I just think for me, what works, that's what people can try. That when you are something, if I speak about and that stresses you out, just take a second, breathe in and out for 10 seconds and think, why am I stressing over this? Why? It is a stress, it needs to be solved. I know that. It is, nothing is that extreme that you want to go to extreme measures. So think what just triggered that heartbeat of mine. 5 seconds, give it and think, it was this. Okay, why am I stressing so much over it? Let's just find the solution. Just give it that thought. I feel that.
Now that when I heard your answer, I think my answer was incorrect because the way I understood the question was, what should you avoid to avoid, in the process of removing stress? So I said, don't go for coffee because, while you're trying to solve stress, but, it, in a way, it takes you towards burnout. So I think your answer is more accurate, by the way.
Thanks. Husbands are working, wives are working, okay, in whatever level of jobs. It might be at a lower level job, higher level job, whatever level that they are at. They come back home, okay. Wives are trying to handle their homemaker jobs, which is their children and family and themselves and whatever. Husband, his stress. Husband handling his work as it is. He's stressed with, like we spoke about, there might be a stressful boss and there might be a stressful this and that. And he's coming back to his house with his issues. Wife is wanting him to contribute more to whatever is there in the house. And how do you solve this? How do you come to a thing where both of them can feel? Because I think in today's world, that is a major problem, which I see around me as what I have seen. That creates a lot of rift between a spouse. And, so of course, we are not here to solve everyone's issues, or we'll say one thing and like a magic, everybody's problems will disappear. It's not like that. But as it's a discussion, what do you think a person can do to reduce that kind of stress in the house? Because everyone's working, everyone's coming back, you're already stressed in the traffic, you're stressed with your work, a wife might be stressed at her work, then she's coming back to children, they have homeworks, they have projects, so that stress is adding on to you. Plus you might be living with your in-laws and whatever, so that family stress is also coming on to you. Maybe you're talking to your mom, your aunts, your family, and that stress is also coming on to you. So how do you just juggle with everything and live a good life, like a good pleasant life where everything is a bit balanced, if not fully?
So in my opinion, what is really happening, or at least what's happened to me and continues to happen to some extent, though I've recognized this problem, is the work-life blur that I was talking about. Now, work-life balance, work-life integration is a topic we can Google. There are hundreds of podcasts on it and articles and books that have been written where a lot of the senior leaders and CEOs of the world have said that don't try to, work-life balance is overrated. Go for work-life integration. And COVID mandated that.
So you mean this is correlated to what Elon Musk and Narayan Murthy said about working hours, extreme working
So
hours?
what really COVID did was it brought work home, right? Because we all got locked at our home, and then work followed, right? So Zoom calls and And when you have global leaders who are telling the workforce around the world to work longer, one of the ways to work longer is to continue to work at home. So, work life balance and work life integration, the work life integration has already occurred now. It is not a choice anymore. So, 10 years back, when I got introduced to the whole topic of work life integration, for me, it was like, my moment, yeah, because I was like, when I started integrating work life, it for me, it gave amazing amount of positive results. With COVID and trying to work longer to give the kind of expectations your companies and bosses are having with you, work life integration has already happened. And now, where we are entering and now going and connecting the dots with couples is the work life blur. So, I'll give you an example now, okay? And it doesn't matter which spouse. Okay, so we should not take the husband and wife example, but one spouse is successful, is an entrepreneur, or in his or her profession, you're doing well, you're the breadwinner, or you make more money than the other. Now you're at home, you are taking calls at home because that's a given.
Yes.
Right? You're working, you're writing emails, all that is fine. That is work life integration. Where the work life blur happens is where now you start interacting with your spouse in the same way that you're interacting with colleagues at work. So you're a boss. Now you're talking to your spouse as a boss.
Like she's a junior.
And everything that you are observing of them is the same lens of how you observe things at work. So say the other spouse is cooking food. Now the way the food has been served. What is this? You just bang the food.
It doesn't have salt. It doesn't have this.
Yeah, it's not perfect. Why is the presentation not there? And you're not taking into account my requirements, because this is what you're expecting people at work to do for you, saying every time you write an email, please ensure that the email is structured, because I like structured email. Now that expectation has gone into your life. And people just don't do that with their spouses. They're doing it with their parents. They've stopped acknowledging, your mom cooking food. You're like, Mom, you're not just cooking food, yeah. Like, you've forgotten what I like. No, she's not forgotten. Hello. She's been feeding you for 30 years. She's not forgotten anything about how you like it. But now your expectation of how she should serve is what you're expecting at work. A lot of parents, for example, speak to their kids as if they're speaking to their juniors. Like they're giving feedback, saying, Acha, listen, for you to improve in your profession, you need to do these 3 things. You speak to your kids in the same language. No, you don't have to. Listen, if your kid is not scoring good scores, it is half your problem. So you can't sit down and give a kid a checklist and say, you know what, yeah, I told you to study for 40 hours a week. I gave you a timetable. Hello, you gave him a timetable. It's a very good thing. You made a timetable, a weekly calendar saying, beta, you're supposed to follow this. But you should have helped your kid to follow it. So if the follow through did not happen, it was your problem.
Yes.
I think the work life blur is a very big problem and nobody's talking about it actually.
Right.
Because everybody's still talking about work life balance, still talking about work life integration. And I think work life blur has to be discussed between couples, has to be discussed between, and you should have that conversation internally saying, am I talking to my mom as if I'm a CEO? Am I talking to my mom as if I'm doing her appraisal? Am I talking to my son and my daughter and my kids as if I'm the boss?
And I've seen this, I don't know whether you've come across any examples of such, but people who have achieved a lot, many, no, I'm not generalizing saying everybody, but I've seen some, okay, that like you're saying that they would speak to whatever, they would speak to their friends like that now.
This work-life blur, I am talking because it's happened to me. And I recognized it after a while. It's a very bad behavior, by the way.
Right.
And I'm speaking from my real life example. So in my opinion, you're spot on, yeah. Because you know what? I not only started doing it with my family members, I actually extended it to my friends.
Yes.
So I have a friend in Australia,
Yeah.
and I'm giving him feedback. I'm telling him, this is my expectation of you. Who are you to give any expectation to anyone? Even though, to your best friend of 20 years, and now I started giving an expectation.
Because that best friend 20 years back knows you from that. you're there for that person.
Yeah.
Like we are, like I would say, I'm your childhood friend, so I know you from there.
The problem, Mahira, is the person who will recognize work-life blur, and especially if you're listening today, you need to recognize there is a work-life blur. You know why? People around you, out of their love and respect for you, are not going to tell
Or
that
point it out to you.
you have crossed the line.
Right.
You have forgotten the line, by the way, not
Yeah.
crossed the line. You've forgotten the line. You're talking to your friend as if you're the CEO.
Yeah.
You don't have to. In friendship, in a relationship at a personal level, it doesn't even matter you're the CEO.
Right.
You could be the CEO of the biggest company in the world. You're the richest guy
Yeah,
in
or
the
like
world.
you could be an actor, you could be a singer, you could be some footballer, or you could be whatever. For your friend, you're a friend. For your mother,
Yeah.
you're a son.
There's no good excuse to do it.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, listen, don't do the extreme also, because see, listen, you are successful at work for a reason. So the learnings, those behaviors have to be applied. Okay, you have to tell your kids what worked for you. Share that experience. I'm saying the blur happens when you start running life like your company. You start behaving in your house as if you are the manager. You've taken your manager work and you brought it now to
And everyone's freaking
yeah,
out.
the bad side of it, like it's good to organize yourself. It's good to put a calendar. We'll talk about tools now, right? Because
That's a different thing. What you're saying, I get it. You're saying that, like, of course, you're a professional or whatever. There's a way you handle your work life, and that you bring it home and you, like, for example, organizing. Now you tell your wife, okay, see, I know this is the way we could, discuss and organize this. That's a different thing. But then ordering it around and saying it like as if you're some manager from somewhere, and, or your child.
It's honestly, it's a negative thing. People have to recognize that is the stress, a prolonged stress leading to burnout, leading to bad behavior, and work-life blur is a bad behavior. The faster we recognize it. And the other aspect is, if you recognize it today, you need to understand that you need to recognize it even 5 days down the road.
Right.
Because it is something that is a general practice.
Right.
And when we talk about tools, we'll talk about that, right? You can't just do one thing one day and say, this is it, I've attained nirvana. You can't.
And stress also, like how I see it, is interrelated also. Like as we've been speaking about it, for example, a person at work is stressed out about something, or the boss is giving them pressure about something. They bring that home. Okay. Now, there might be a regular thing your wife or your husband might ask you, and you might snap because you're already stressed about something else, but they've not realized it because.
See, it goes to that question I said, that you could be the best, you followed the best training regime to run a marathon, but a mental stress from another completely opposite topic will ruin your race day. It will completely ruin your race day. So it is very important to recognize stress.
And to cut it off. I think you can't cut off the entire stress, but some part of it, because like I'm saying, it's a chain. Now you've got it home. Now you've done that to your wife. Now your wife is irritated. Now she sits with the child to study or something. She's removing that on the child. The child is irritated. He goes to the another sibling. He's playing.
It's a chain reaction.
So it's a chain reaction. So you cut, either one of them recognizes it and cuts it off also. That saves the other. Don't you think so?
The best teams in the world win the World Cup. Any World Cup, right? Because
it's a team effort.
Yeah, they just operate like a team, right?
Yes.
So they are the people who stop this chain reaction from happening. One person's stress goes into the other person. In a family, to expect that is a little bit of a tall order, in my opinion. But listen, it's what you said, and if families can do that, amazing. They'll be the happiest families around.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So, Harish, now that we've realized what are the different kinds of stresses and burnouts, and we've almost covered all the aspects and all the personas who are dealing with it, like it's everybody. What are the tools you think that could you could apply to handle these kind of situations and this stress and burnout?
Yeah. So we'll go persona at a time, right? And listen, I think again, these are the tools that work for us, right? As in, you and me have discussed some of this, before the cameras were switched on. So I would say, with the audience, take it with a pinch of salt, try it, optimize it, give it your own flavor, share it back in the comments, because I want to learn from everyone. So that is super important. Second aspect is, if people are really dealing with some serious stress, you have to go take professional help, because this our
Yeah, yeah.
podcast is not
Therapy
professional help.
session or
Yeah,
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 it is
exactly.
not.
So if you talk about students,
Hmm.
the most important element, for a student, and these students, we are not talking about somebody who's in grade 5, grade 10, we're talking about any kind of student. You
Any
could be a
student.
doctorate student. The tip I'll give to students in every shape and form is make a 2-minute journal, right? Every day, whether you do it at the start of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, whether you do it on your phone, whether you do it on your post-it, make a 2-minute journal. Spend 2 minutes writing down and reflecting upon what happened in the day.
How does that help according to you?
You know what it does is, and by the way, these 2-minute journals are very important. It also works for professionals, but I'll give examples exactly the same to writing down thing for different personas. What you need to understand is a lot of stress comes because not that you're dealing with the stress, not because you had a bad day. Sometimes it's just human behavior. 15 minutes of bad moment experience in your day of 24 hours could have a negative connotation on the whole day.
That happens in most cases I've seen.
Okay,
Yeah.
the teacher yelled at you, but if you really clock on the watch,
Was 1 minute for
she
30
yelled
seconds.
at you for 36 seconds exactly.
But your whole day was ruined.
It ruined your whole day. So when you reflect, when you start writing, what it does is it gives you that sense. So when you start reflecting at the end of the day and you do it for 15 days straight, muscle memory that you're really building is reflection. So when it's happening now in real time, the 36 seconds now she's yelling at you, or your teachers are yelling at you, or him or her, whoever it is, you're reflecting real time saying, yes, it's happening. Yes, it was my mistake. Yes, this moment is going to pass.
Yes.
Now you're not going to carry this 30 seconds
For the-
for 9 hours, 12 hours. You're grumpy. You are reflecting it on your
Yeah.
parents, everybody. So
Everybody.
this is very important. The second benefit of taking notes is in your notes, please talk about what went right today. So important, yeah. I love my friend smiling. I enjoyed that joke my friend cracked because the whole classroom was cracking up, and
Actually, people talk more about their problems. I've realized that's what stresses everyone
yeah. So you know
now.
what? When you're doing journaling, start with
Yeah.
problems. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
it, but
but
please
go on the positives
spare
also.
a moment to talk about positives. Yeah, saying, you know
Right.
what, I just had the best moment today.
Oh, I appreciated this.
Appreciate yourself, pat your back, saying, you know what, by the way, this is the first time I now could memorize that thing, that formula. I remember the formula today. I was not able to remember it for 3 days in a row, and the fourth day it clicked.
Right.
Pat your back. It's amazing. The other tool, for students is going to be that please write down in the journal, take note, or even tell yourself saying, what am I going to improve tomorrow in myself? So I have a process of studying. Tomorrow I'm going to improve it by 1%. Do that. For students, it's very important to know what you're going to improve tomorrow, because you've just started your journey of entrepreneurship and professional life today. Because what are you doing as a student? You're really preparing for a successful career. So the journey is already begun, and therefore improvement is super important.
So, besides journaling, what else would you suggest as a tool for students? Some might not want to sit and write down, for example. Some want some other kind of
I
instant.
would say one of the things, if you are not good at writing, please reflect with your parents. I would put it differently. If you have a more comfortable relationship with your dad, sit with him 1 minute a day, 2 minutes a day, reflect on the day, saying, Papa, this is what happened today.
Right.
We laughed on this joke. Call your best friend, reflect. So if you can't take journals and notes, then take verbal notes. Reflect with somebody you love. And by the way, today we have gadgets. You can reflect and take audio files and then listen back. Yeah, why not?
But I think what you're saying is now that I am reflecting on my life, that my mother had always made this a rule. Whenever I came home, like subconsciously, she made it a habit while she was doing her things, and when I'm back from school, she would keep asking me, "Oh, what happened in school? So what was the good thing that happened today? Okay, okay, what happened? Something bad happened? Something." So in a way, now I'm realizing that was the whole, and I would say everything, and I've built that with my son. When he comes from school and I'm, getting him ready for his lunch and this and that, he starts talking from the door. anything good or anything bad.
That's lovely.
Yeah. So he keeps telling me, oh, this paper didn't go well. I didn't
Yeah.
do well in this. My teacher said this to me. And then I
So
have to, it's okay.
though Kian is doing it naturally, Myra, you need to tell him that do it as a conscious activity, because if he
Yes.
does it today, imagine what version of reflection, what version of journaling he's going to do at the age of 20.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
amazing, right?
Now that I've realized that, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good
Yeah.
point.
So another tool tip for people, especially because the whole world uses WhatsApp,
Right.
you can chat with yourself.
Yes, yes. I've just realized that 2
Yeah. So
weeks
journal.
back.
So just journal on WhatsApp. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
send yourself a message.
Yeah. About now we come into housewives or homemakers.
Yeah.
So how can they deal with this? What are the tools that they can use to reduce their stress levels, at
Yeah.
home?
So I started doing this one tool, especially in the beginning of the day, in the morning, because the first thing, by the way, a lot of people do is we go and see ourselves in the mirror. Have you realized that?
Yes.
Like, do you do that when you get up?
Yeah,
Well, you'll anyway do that because you'll go and brush your
brush
teeth
your
unless you're not
teeth.
brushing your teeth, right?
Yeah, 100%. You see yourself.
So you are going to see yourself in the mirror. A lot of people go and see themselves in the mirror.
Huh.
I do that a lot.
Okay.
So what you do is when you get up,
Huh.
smile. So when you see yourself in the mirror, smile. Okay. So by the way,
I'm
this
just imagining my spouse catching me getting up and smiling
smiling in
at
the mirror.
myself
Yeah.
in the mirror.
By the way, you know what? Just the thought of it
Huh.
cracked you up.
Right, right.
So I'll tell you, this tool does two things. A, it gives you a measure of stress in your life. So if it cracked you up, you are honestly fine.
Yeah.
You saw yourself in the mirror, you smiled, it cracked you up.
Yeah.
Now, if it did not crack you up, then the process is you smile for 30 seconds and see what is going on. Because if it is a fake smile, you need to understand there's something that is stressing you out. For me, it takes about a minute to figure that out. So I'm just looking at it, and you're smiling and you're brushing your teeth and all that stuff. So that is a great tool in my opinion that everybody can do it. Again, mostly for more grown-ups and professionals. Kids are smiling all the time, yeah. So they don't have to they don't have to do it. The other tool that I feel grown-ups should do is keep a gratitude log. See, we need to understand that by the time we have grown up, Myra, there is so many things that have worked in our favor that we are even alive. So you're 25, you're 30, I'm 42 today. Boss, you're alive, yeah.
This
We are
is
doing
what
a podcast today. We have so many things that are,
working in our favor.
working in our favor, that we have all the tools, resources, so many, God's been graceful to us. So maintain a gratitude log in the morning. It's the best time to do it. Just thank that you are thankful that you are alive. You are thankful that
breathing,
we
your
were able
limbs
to
are moving.
No, and you're thankful that you could buy a new phone. You are
Yes.
thankful that
Your
the
children are healthy, your family is whatever works for you or
yeah,
whatever
and the
is good in your
smallest thing,
life.
smallest thing, you
Yeah.
say, I'm thankful that I was able to buy a new pen. I'm thankful that my boss came and patted my back yesterday. So find not generalistic terms, because listen, you have a great family. You can keep thanking that. On the 10th day, it's going to become boring. So you need to find one or two things that happened yesterday, and you write that in a gratitude log. I'm thankful that I cut a lane and I did not bang with a car. Yeah. So somebody forgive my mistake, because I'll tell you what will happen. On day 1000, you're going to cut your lane and somebody's going to bang you. But you need to understand that 999 days before, nobody banged you. ठीक है ना? So it's very important for us to thank things that you can't just regret when bad things happen. So you need to get into this gratitude of things. The grown-ups have to do that, by the way.
Right.
The other thing I'm going to tell everybody, or every grown-up, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a CEO, you're a homemaker, please find 10 minutes minimum in a day, which is called me time. Spend time with yourself. Listen to the music you want. Go watch your favorite podcaster. Go for see 10 reels if that makes you happy. Go play games if the stupidest of the stupid game. Go read a book, because listen, people do things if you don't have me time. and 10 minutes. Boss, something in your life has to change.
Yes, 100%. I
Okay?
believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes minimum
Hmm.
and easy things to do. So for me, me time was when I was driving to work. 45 minutes straight me time. So the energy level by the time I used to get to work, and then when I'm driving from work to home and it takes another 45 minutes, the energy level when I enter the home, I am a different person because I've had my me time. Now, what you do in your me time is your thing. What I do in my me time, I call my friends. So what you do in your me time is your thing. Listen to an audiobook. Listen, when you're driving, you can't read a book. So please listen to an audiobook. Yeah, so the greatest thing in the world to do. If you can't do 10 minutes of me time, guys, there's a problem. Serious problem you need to solve for yourself. If you can start doing 10 minutes of me time today, extended to whatever time it goes, I think it's one of the best tool tips for homemakers and working professionals.
So, Harish, what tools can professionals apply to reduce their stress in their lives?
One of the most important tools for professionals is watch the clock. Yeah, see, we are working in an environment where work is at home, so people don't know when to stop. In fact, there is this whole debate that was going on post COVID, and the debate was, are people working more at home or they're working less? And I will tell you, my argument back in the day was, you end up working more. So this bias that a lot of bosses and CEOs have, saying, oh my god, you know what, people at home are just taking too many breaks, they're chilling. And listen, that's one off. There is this one person who has bad behavior, but I'll tell you, that doesn't happen for majority of the people. Majority of the people end up working so much more. Even women with smaller kids are working more because they're just at home, they don't know when to stop.
It's never ending, let me tell you, because that's the example I can give you, that I've worked as a professional in a company. I've been in a bank, I've been in a very big firm in UAE also. After that, I've been a homemaker for the longest time now. And it is very difficult because homemaker duty just doesn't stop. So you have to know, when
You
to
don't know when
stop,
to
what to
stop.
do.
So,
Yeah,
the you need to understand in life that, the one thing that does not change is a clock ticking.
right.
So you need to know when to stop. And for working professionals, I'll say, please look at the watch once in an hour, get out of your seat, walk. And, one of the other things I tell people is, don't keep a 2-liter bottle next to you.
Keep it away
So,
so you walk.
drinking water is amazing. Yeah, but, measure the water you need to drink. So walk towards the water filter. It does two things, by the way. One thing it does is it just makes you get up, right? Because if you just keep sitting for 4 hours, whether you're at home, whether you're at home, you're at work, please get up, walk, have a glass of water. The other benefit of doing that is, you need to understand, again, back in the day, where was Twitter? Where was Instagram back in the day? Back in the day, humanity was when women used to go to the wells. So the well fetching water was Twitter.
Yeah, social gathering, total.
It was social, because today the social gathering is on Twitter.
Yeah,
We like
yeah.
it or not, Twitter is the
Yes.
social gathering,
Yeah.
place for the world. So you need to create that. So the water filter is the well today. So you'll always find somebody.
And there's a
So
conversation
have a
happening.
conversation.
Yeah.
There are people who will work for 12 hours a day. They will continue to work 12 hours a day. Someone like me, I don't think I'm going to change that habit. I've tried and done that, and I don't. If you ask my wife, she say, Harish is going to work 12 hours a day and he's going to do it till the day he dies. I think I've started to keep one day, Friday, saying today I'm going to walk out at 7. For me, at least I'll walk out at 8. So time boxing for working
Important.
professionals. One tool, please guys do it. I can give you 8 more tools, but I would say just do one tool.
Okay. So, what about entrepreneurs? Any tools for them that they could help, channel out their stress or organize their stress levels?
Yeah, so I would say for entrepreneurs, CEOs, one thing that they need to do is, because one of the things that entrepreneurs and CEOs are doing is constantly talking.
Yes.
So, because you're addressing, right? You're talking to your client. So think about, I'll give you a very basic example. You're an entrepreneur, you're running a bakery. So you are baking, you're talking to your team, saying, guys, you'll have at least one person in your team because, you're a startup, right? You're talking to your client now. What are your requirements? What do you do? Constantly talking. So think about, by the time you're talking about a guy who's running a company with 50 people or 10 people or 5 people, you're talking to the team, you're talking to your clients, you're talking. So one of the tools for them is have a silent lunch, silent meal, one meal, silent. Now, what it does is the fact that you are doing so much of one thing, when you do the extreme, just silent out, zone out, it just allows you to reflect. Now they'll do everything, because they'll reflect. Gratitude comes in. What did I do wrong? So it just helps, yeah. So I do that a lot. As in sometimes I'm just taking silent. I'm having silent meals. I'm having silent walks. I'll go
It's a
for a walk. I
reflecting
take a
time.
yeah. I just do that, yeah.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur,
Mm.
as a CEO, whoever you are,
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest tool that has worked for me.
Yes. Any other suggestions or tools that you would overall also feel that,
For me, the biggest tool that's worked for me is the me time.
yeah.
Because what I've done over the years, I started with me time, watching content,
Mm.
watching my favorite podcaster, favorite topic of the day, favorite everything.
Mm.
Then I shifted of listening to ebooks.
Mm.
I can't read.
Mm.
I'm just I can read 1,000 emails a day. I can't read 5 books, 5 pages in a book. I'm like horrible. Yeah, I can read. By the way, I can just read 50 Bloomberg articles, 50 Reuters articles, and Wall Street Journal. I can do all of that. When it comes to books, I'm so distracted. So ebooks, I went into like listening. And then where I have reached in my me time today is just calling my friends, because you know what it does to me is just works like a therapy. I have the best friends and best mentors around me, and they give me feedback. They tell me what I need to improve. It works like a journal, because when I talk to them, I reflect. I'm vulnerable in front of them. So be vulnerable when you're doing journals, by the way, because it could be a self journal, could be just putting a voice note into WhatsApp. But be vulnerable, and I'm vulnerable to my network. So for me, if there's one tool, big takeaway for everybody today is have me time.
So Harish, while that from the time we've started this podcast, I start speaking to my network, my friends, and some people to ask them what is their input on my topic. Okay, to know generalize what do they have to say. So some questions had popped up, which I think I'll ask you, and you could just give us few insights on those. Can burnout be reversed or is it permanent?
This question is a professional question. So again, I'll give my real life example. This is I should avoid commenting on this. In my opinion, some burnouts are permanent. God forbid for anybody. For example, certain burnouts will lead to physical breakdown, and some of the physical breakdown is permanent. People getting a stroke, unfortunately, and mental health issues, and it's unfortunate. But some burnouts at work is reversible, because burnouts lead to interpersonal relationship problems, social distancing in kids. That can be reversed, yeah.
So how do I stop overworking when I love what I do? Yeah, that's one good one. You love doing it.
Yeah,
Harish, I think you're also in that
it's
zone.
it is. It's work life blur.
Hmm.
You love doing it so much that you do it so much that you now start destroying everything around you. So see, you need to understand, for us, it's also misrepresentation of information in your own head. See, I have grown up listening to Sachin Tendulkar, why he was the god of cricket. So I've heard saying he will practice with the team. So the team would practice 4 hours a day. Then Tendulkar will go and hit 1,000 balls in the net. So that's another 2 to 3 hours. Then he gets up in the morning, does his own routine. And then for me, it was like, oh my God, you got to work. It's misrepresentation, because I never asked Sachin Tendulkar, really, is that what you really do, and what implication it does it? We did not have access to him. So the misrepresentation of that information for me was just keep working. If you keep working, you're going to be perfect at it, you're going to be good at it, and you're going to see success. So, you know what? I think if you take that example now and say, if you're overdoing something which you love, especially if it is related to work, then in my opinion, you really need to give it a thought. For some people, I'll also say, people have the tendency to overdo hobbies also. I love painting. You're only painting.
Painting all the
You're
time.
ignoring your friends
Yeah,
around
yeah.
you and stuff like that. But
True.
that happens less of the time. We end up doing more work. I will tell you, if you end up doing more work beyond what you should do, one of the things that you end up doing is you start expecting results much faster. It creates unnecessary stress. You also start expecting your colleagues and your bosses to recognize you more because you're working 12 hours a day. You're doing 14 hours a day. And it creates expectations which are toxic in nature, self-consuming. People are so busy in their life, yeah, Myra. Like, my boss is so busy, yeah. He's traveling the world. He's traveling, he's running 6 companies at the same time. Am I expecting him to call me every day and pat my back? And if I created that environment, who is to blame now? I'm safe. So if I work 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, and I'm expecting my boss to call me and pat my back every single day, whose problem is that?
Yours.
Yeah.
Is stress contagious?
So you know what?
In a way, like I said, that change.
So laughter is contagious. So you smile, I smile.
Yes,
Stress, in my opinion, is contagious.
it is.
Okay.
From the point of view
Yeah.
of the one
It's
that
it's an it's a solid topic of debate, huh?
yeah.
As in, we should ask the viewers to just comment on
Yeah,
this.
please do comment and
Yeah.
on these things what we're talking about. And if you all feel something you all want to add to it, you all can of course add to it in the comments or ask us more about it to elaborate. Or if you all need to know more tools, I think the listeners should know that they are
Yeah.
free to do that.
It's contagious because the bad habits and bad behaviors that come out of stress, not the good outcomes. Remember, I said stress comes when humans challenge themselves. It drives them to success. Overdoing it will drive them to burnout. Is that contagious? I would say yeah, because if you are a boss and you are working 12 hours and you're burning yourself out, there is a tendency that your team will start behaving alike. They will also start spending 12 hours at work. So they will also start getting burned out. And then
It's
you have
contagious. It's a vicious
yeah,
circle
then
in a
where it's a chain.
Hmm.
So in a team, it's a football team. They're trying to win the World Cup. Everybody's trying to overdo it. There's a whole world expecting them to win the World Cup.
Right.
And everybody's crashing together. So we've seen that, right? We've seen teams not lose a single match all the way to semifinals. And then in the semifinals, they played horrible. Like, everybody's like, where did that come from?
The stress, maybe.
Yeah, so that
And at the opposite end, if you see the underdogs, sometimes we say the ones who performed very well, probably they didn't get, they saw the beasts against them, but they were not stressed, so they just
yeah.
overcame
So
the whole
stress
thing.
may not be contagious. The outcomes of stress is contagious. If you are talking to your spouse with disrespect because of stress at work, the disrespect is going to come back. So I'm disrespectful to you, you're going to be disrespectful to me. If I'm going to talk to my parents like I'm the boss, this is what I expect out of you. Mom, you don't love me anymore. You don't say I love you 5 times a day. I expect you to do this. I expect. Then you know what? They're also going to expect from you, huh? So like, boss, as a son, you're not doing it. They go, what the neighbor's son is doing. So that is contagious. And therefore, I'm saying stress is contagious.
Right. So this has been an amazing topic, I think, and I hope the viewers enjoyed it, the listeners enjoyed it.
If we carry on for another 15 minutes, we're going to get stressed out.
Yeah, no, we are cutting it out now.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. And please, if you are enjoying what we are talking about or the podcast, or if you have anything to say, you have any views, comments, please like, share, subscribe, and get in touch with us. And see you around the next time. Thank you so much. Signing off, Harish.
Love talking as usual, and see everybody in the next one.